Welcome to Vision Chat, a podcast about spiritual topics, with your hosts, Virginia and Stina.
Hello and welcome back to Vision Chat. In this episode, Virginia and I are interviewing Jonny Torgersen. Jonny Torgersen is a hypnotist and spiritual medium. He started his development of the age 18 and has since then always been fascinated by life after death and the human experience. In 2018, he started studying the strengths and weaknesses of the human mind. He got to experience hypnosis for the first time, and once he tapped into the hidden power within the subconscious mind, there was no going back. Through hypnosis, his clients experienced major shift in their lives emotionally and mentally in order to live closer in their truth and their goals. They reported back that they overcome fears and barriers that are decades old and became ready to take on new opportunities in their life. Johnny's goal is to facilitate a life-changing experience that allows his clients to have breakthroughs that not only heal but create renewed sense of happiness and more fulfilled trajectory in life. Jonny is a certified transformational coach and board-certified hypnotist. He has studied with both transformational life coach and motivational speakers like Lisa Nichols and master hypnotherapist Tom Silver, among many others. So, hey and welcome, Jonny.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, do you want to start to tell a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Thank you. I'm just honored to be on the show, and just want to give a shout out to my friend Michael Mayo, who introduced me to you guys. And so, yeah. Um, it's really cool to be interviewed by a fellow Norwegian. I was born and raised in Oslo, Norway, and at the age of 21, I moved to the United States. Been, living in Oregon for a little bit, New Mexico, and then I've been in San Diego, California for the last 10 plus years. Just kind of interesting how life took me here. It wasn't necessarily planned, but I guess like a common theme or a red thread throughout my life is that I just follow my heart to the best of my ability, and it's taken me some pretty cool places. I think from an early age, I was like very curious about, I always loved to study people, and especially like musical artists and people who have sort of kind of like made it, right? And reading their biographies and just kind of understanding where do they come from, how do they start, and how do they end up changing their lives completely to where they're at right now, being super successful. And very little of that was actually planned for most people. And I think that's just such an interesting perspective to how, like, we don't necessarily always have to plan our lives to the smallest detail, but just kind of go along with life, follow the flow of life, and see what happens. Because ultimately, I think, if you want to look at it from a spiritual perspective, our soul, comes from a place before we were born. And I think we come with some predestined life points, if you will. So yeah, here I am talking to dead people, and I also do hypnosis on people. Never thought that was ever going to happen, right?
Man, that sounds really cool, actually.
Yeah, I enjoy it.
Combo. So what do you do? You're a hypnotist and a medium.
Yeah. Okay. So, the way I got into all this stuff, I was 18, living in Norway, and I remember, I don't even know how old you are, Stine. You probably weren't born yet. But back in Norway at that time, they had a TV show called Åndenes Makt, like the power of the spirit, right? And it was like a lot of ghost hunting shows. And, looking back at it, I'm not sure I fully agree with the way they did all that stuff, but it got me interested in, life after physical death and the continuous life of the soul. And I got introduced to a medium back then. Her name was Iris Hall. She was from England, and I went to her mediumship demonstration, and she brought through my grandmother. And that was kind of like how my whole journey on that path started. And did several workshops, got with like-minded people. We would sit in development circles, and I just had a lot of cool experiences, connecting with spirit, blending with spirit, and ultimately what it is just connecting with that loving aspect of our own soul, which was such a profound change for me. And I'm glad I found that at an early age, because it helped cultivate my own intuition and my own love for self, and my own ability to trust myself and take me some really cool places. So yeah, that's kind of how it all started and unfolded.
I love that. How did you get into hypnosis?
Yeah, so with hypnosis, that was many years later, after I moved to the States. I was working with I was working with a transformational coach. Her name is Lisa Nichols, as you mentioned earlier. And one of her clients happened to be a hypnotherapist. And I didn't know what that was. I didn't know much about hypnosis at all. She talked to me about, the subconscious mind and how important it is to figure out, what lives in the subconscious mind and what kind of subconscious beliefs we hold about ourselves. So it was just a casual conversation that led into her taking me under her wing, mentoring me, guiding me, certifying me through her organization. And that's how I became a hypnotist. I think what stood out for me was the fact that when people try to create a change in their lives, people get very heady. They use the willpower to create a change, and the very logical, critical part of the mind, which is actually the weakest part of our mind. And so what people don't always realize, and I didn't realize this either, is like the power of the subconscious mind and how it plays out in what we want to create in life. So let's say someone wants to, quit smoking, or they want to focus on a goal and become successful in their career. But if the subconscious mind has an idea or limiting belief that things, standing out there, being successful requires me to be seen, for a lot of people, that makes them very uncomfortable, and they may not be ready for that. So if that's the underlying belief of the success that people are trying to create, we're going to end up self-sabotaging. And so once I realized that for me and my own self, my own subconscious belief, and now also working with my own clients, it's quite remarkable how easily it is to change for people once they tackle their subconscious belief, because it's the most powerful part of the mind. They say that the subconscious mind is 90 to 95% more powerful than your thinking mind. And so unless the subconscious mind is on board with the change that you're trying to create, it's very hard to see change in results.
What kind of people do you typically work with?
All kinds of people. And that's what I love about what I do. I have people who want to create, they want to quit a negative habit. Maybe they're smoking too much. Maybe they're drinking too much soda, And then 2 weeks ago, actually, I got a new client. She's a pilot. And, she just wants to feel more confident when she's flying. And I'm like, that's great. And she's a budding pilot. She's not a commercial pilot or anything. But she's something she wants to do as a hobby. And so, working with her was really cool. And then I have people who grew up with, parents who talk down to their children and, may have created a very limiting belief they hold about themselves in regards to not feeling so confident and not feeling good enough. And they see how that shows up in their lives. I think for a lot of people, if they meet people, or they even want to date people, but they have this underlying belief that, they don't feel good enough, they don't feel worthy enough of having something amazing, they attract the same kind of negative partner over and over. And so it's just been interesting to work with people on that level too, and helping them break that pattern of negativity, if you will. So yeah, I have all kinds of clients, and it's very diverse, and I love that.
Do you meet your clients like physically, or can you do it over video calls and stuff like that too?
Sure, that's a great question. I do both. And so initially I started out I was just practicing on my friends and people. They would just come over to my house, and I was just like, hey, let me try this on you, like this new skill that I have. And kind of doubting it honestly in the beginning, because I wasn't sure, like, is this actually working? And then always checking in with them afterwards, like, was it good for you? And they're like, yeah, that was amazing. I was like, so it helped get that, reassurance that this actually works. Obviously, I knew for myself that it worked because I had tried hypnosis many, many times on myself and been hypnotized. And I saw the amazing, profound changes that happened in my life. So yeah, I do both. As long as the person or the client can hear me and they can be comfortable in their own physical space, it doesn't really matter if I do it in person or over Zoom or video chat, because hypnosis is self-hypnosis. I'm not doing anything crazy or anything like that. It's the client themselves that's in charge of the session. I'm just facilitating it and guiding them to get to that place of what hypnosis is, which is a state of physical relaxation and magnified concentration. It's pretty diverse.
Is there like a certain bias maybe or misconception that you kind of have to work through with some clients that maybe come in with an idea about what hypnosis is or what it should do for them? Like, do you
Sure.
find yourself educating clients a lot?
Yeah. The people who are the most resistant usually have the best results, which is interesting, I think. A lot of people think hypnosis is a trance state or that they're going to somehow be unconscious, but it's very different. So hypnosis it's a state of physical relaxation where your body and every muscle in your body is relaxing, but then your mind is actually magnifying the concentration or its ability to concentrate. It's kind of similar to if you ever done a yoga class. At the end, you do the relaxing resting pose at the end, Shavasana, I think it's called. And so a lot of times you're in a state of perfect physical relaxation, but then at some point your mind just kind of takes over, and it's a very emotional part of the mind that kind of merges. It's that subconscious part of the mind. And so I always have to like reassure people, like, you're fully in control. There's nothing dangerous. What's really neat about the subconscious mind is that it wants you to feel loved, protected, and secure. And so I always tell people, I cannot suggest anything that would put you in harm's way. So I always like to reassure people that we all have our own inner gatekeeper that wants us to feel good and protected. So yeah, I think that's like the biggest misconception that people have about hypnosis. That people see like stage hypnosis shows from Las Vegas and whatever, and I've been to them. They're awesome, they're hilarious, but it's not the kind of hypnosis that I do. It's very different. So yeah.
So you're not gonna have people like walking around, like barking like dogs and
No, not done that. I mean, I sometimes I like to throw in like a fun thing at the end, like, oh, when I scratch my nose, you laugh hysterically and things like that, like a post-hypnotic suggestion. But nothing crazy like
that's
that.
awesome.
Yeah. And it's very cool, like another thing is like people don't understand why hypnosis is so powerful. And the reason is because the subconscious mind doesn't understand the difference between imagination and reality. So when you're in that perfectly receptive state of hypnosis, you'll adapt to new suggestions as if it was true right there, right then, and instantly. And that's why it's so profound in creating change in people's life. I've had clients, they've gone to talk therapy, and I'm not dissing talk therapy. I think it's great. I think it's very helpful to like help people organize their thoughts, but it doesn't always address the root issue, which is a very somatic experience or subconscious experience for most people. After a couple of sessions, they feel much better than they have after years of talk therapy, because the subconscious mind is always in charge, is always in control. It's like that dominating voice. And most of the time, people aren't even aware of the conversation that they have in the subconscious mind, because it's, again, unconscious, right? We don't really always pay attention to it. And so after each session, when I work with clients, like, I just encourage people to be with themselves and sit with themselves and get to know their own soul self. Because the more you're in touch with your own inner truth, it's harder for you to veer off the path of where you're trying to go.
Do you have an unique story or experience that you have with hypnosis?
Yeah, I guess for myself, my own experience with it, when I had it done for the first time, I had a lot of anger come up. And, people look at me, they think I'm pretty even keel and very mellow and calm and stuff. But on the inside, I guess not always. And so when I had this hypnosis session done to me, I I felt like this surge of rage come up, and then I was able to let it go in that same session. So it was almost like I had to, and I think that that anger has been with me for many, many years, and it's probably shown up in some of my behaviors in some ways without me actually realizing it. So it's very helpful, like to kind of connect the dots, and, like my behavior stems from a root belief or a root cause, and then the anger again, wasn't necessarily that the primary emotion, was more like the secondary emotion. I think was underneath that was just like sadness that I wasn't living my true authentic life, or as I think I should live my life. And so yeah, it was almost like a grieving process, and I think that's what the anger represented. It's like realizing and coming to terms with, I've done things that I've said yes to a lot more things than I should have said no to. And so it's very helpful to like help me just own my truth, own my power, and be comfortable with who I am.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I can imagine, like, I feel still in Norway, it might be a little bit taboo to be like mediumship or hypnosis and stuff like that. How was it for you when you started getting into it? Did you
Yeah.
talk to people, or did you feel like you had to hide it?
So that's a great question. And I've been thinking a lot about that. And this was, gosh, I'm 37. So I was 18 when I started all this. Like, you do the math. I mean, it's been a few years. When I started doing that in Norway, the mediumship, the meditation, I was open with the fact that I was into spirituality and that I was doing meditation, but I left it at that. When friends and family asked, I never said like, I talk to dead people, because again, this is a reflection of me, right? I feared the judgment because I wasn't comfortable owning that truth or that side of me. And then, moving to America was just such a positive experience for me because it was very accepted here. Again, it's a big country, and it kind of depends on what crowd you're hanging out with, for sure. But I guess I found my people here. Yeah, but yeah, and even in Norway too, I think like it's a very secular society, not a very faith-based society. The mediumship kind of, at least from my friends that I knew who were into it, kind of opened like the door for them to find a type of spirituality or connect with their own souls in a way that we didn't know about growing up. So yeah, definitely some taboo around it, but I don't know, just it's like it's everywhere now. It's really hard to doubt these things. And I've had many profound experiences, and I witnessed other people have great experiences. And I think the majority of the people that I know in my life right now, they believe in it. So yeah, it's been, an interesting journey.
Are you comfortable sharing any profound experiences with us today about what's changed or impacted your life?
Sure. And in terms of what, spirituality or?
Anything. Spirituality, the mediumship, the
Yeah.
hypnotist, whatever you want.
Well, I think the first encounter I had with a medium, was a very life-changing experience when she brought through my grandmother and described her personality and that she's still around. And since then I've had, many other mediums do similar readings for me. And just knowing that, our loved ones, they're still around us, they're not dead. And I think that was like a big like aha moment for me, and something that keeps changing for me every year that goes by. It becomes more and more real. I think the closer I get to my own transition date, which hopefully will be a long time from now, but I just have like this understanding and this knowing and this comfortability, knowing that our souls, they're not going anywhere. It's energy, it's just changing its form. It's always around. So, and I guess like the collectiveness of all souls together representing that consciousness, or what you would call a higher power or God, and that we're all part of that, has been a really cool thing for me to tap into as I live my own personal human life, right? And so it's really built my own confidence. It's built my own trust in myself and in the universe, that when we go through trials and tribulations, it's usually to get to, the core of who we're supposed to be. And it's that like the love for self and knowing that we'll be fine regardless whatever happens in life. So yeah, I would say that's a pretty drastic change, because yeah, I mean, growing up, I didn't grow up with religion or anything. My grandmother is religious, and she would pray and taught me prayer, which was awesome. But I think when I was 16, I had my confirmation like the day after. I was like, I don't want to be part of the church anymore. So I actually mailed in my resignation. Like I didn't want to be in the register anymore. And then I found mediumship and spirituality, and that took my faith to a whole different place that I didn't anticipate, which I'm very grateful for.
That's awesome. Thank you.
When you were younger, did you have any episodes where you felt like, oh, okay, there's more to this life than just the humans or the physical?
Yeah, not so much until I was 18. Up until then, I'm not one of those mediums who had like, I didn't necessarily see spirit as a kid. And I think a lot of people like who go out on this journey, like wanting to become a medium, they think like, oh, I can't do, like, I wasn't a child prodigy where I saw spirits everywhere, right? And I didn't either. Looking back, like there's probably been some episodes where I can pinpoint like, okay, that was probably spirit trying to come through to me in some ways. But yeah, I don't think it's like, sorry, what was the question again? It took me somewhere else.
When you were younger, if you had any experiences where you kind of thought like, oh, there has to be more to this earth than just like the physical.
Oh yeah. Definitely through seeing mediums where they bring through past loved ones, and they actually bring through the evidence. Some mediums are amazing at bringing names and facts. They're like, there's no shadow of doubt, like this is real. But more so from the perspective that I have right now as a hypnotist and a medium, I think growing up, I always relied so much on my own willpower and my own thinking, like human thinking, and it never took me anywhere. It just caused more trouble, it seemed like. And going through years of some depression, and well, not the yeah, I guess you could say depression, because I wasn't really connected to my own higher self, where I lived in my head. And that's another thing in growing up in Scandinavia, like we're so heady and we're using our brains very, very much. And so when I started doing a lot of meditation through the people that I would meet, it opened up my mind to stop relying on my own thoughts as much, and just trusting and just cultivating this inner intuition, this inner feeling that I'm going to be okay as long as I follow my heart. Because like I think of my heart as like my door, my window to a higher power, and whatever feels good in my heart, I'm like, okay, let's go for it. Like I don't doubt things as much anymore. So that's been a major change for me, where I don't really doubt that this is real,
That's really exciting, because we've been talking to people, and doing several interviews, and everyone says the same thing, follow your heart.
Yeah, it works. I was just going to say, like some of the clients that I work with, some of them are miserable, and they've tried everything else, and they don't understand that because they're not listening to what their higher self is telling them, they enter these stages of depression and misery. And I'm like, you don't have to live like that. If you just start to do what your soul is telling you to do by listening to your own soul, your life will drastically change for the better.
What do you think keeps people from doing that?
That's a great question. I think fear, obviously, but maybe there's a fear of, I think when people don't trust themselves, they have a hard time trusting something else or other than themselves. And people always look outside of themselves for comfort and help. Some people do that through drugs, alcohol. Some do that through relationships. They can't be on their own. They're always dating someone, and they hate the fact that they have to sit with themselves and be with themselves. And I think if people just learn to be more comfortable sitting in their own presence with their own soul, their own higher self, like their lives would drastically change. So I think it's just like that initial hurdle, obstacle. But again, as we know, once you start to sit with yourself and you get to know yourself, there's many layers to the mind and human psyche, and I've experienced that myself also. Like, it's not always pleasant. So I think people don't like pain, and I get it, because I think emotional pain is far greater than any physical pain that I have experienced. And so yeah, I think people just need to learn to sit with themselves and be with themselves, and start to trust that, you know, things will work out for them if they just leave it alone, you know.
Do you ever combine being a hypnotist and a medium? Like, in any, I don't know if there's a way that you combine both of them?
On some level, I do. When I first started out being a hypnotist, I would always read the scripts, you know, that I would get from my instructor. Like, you know, this client has a problem with XYZ. So I would find a script that would match that and follow it to a T, because I was like, I don't know how to do this. Like, I didn't trust myself. But the more I've been doing it, you know, I don't use scripts at all anymore. I think that was just like the first year I was doing hypnosis just to get comfortable with it. Now it's like I feel the energy of my client, and I go into their subconscious mind together with them as I'm guiding them there, and I become aware. I guess you could say through like a psychic faculty, or a sense that, you know, I sense what's needed, and I sense, and I can also physically see, you know, when I'm touching on to something that they're, you know, if there's a pain point, or, you know, if the words that I'm saying is triggering a reaction, you know, I can always redirect or even lean more into that area. So yeah, I guess it's more like a state of heightened sensibility or sensitivity and focus for me as well. Because every time I hypnotize one of my clients, I'm also hypnotizing myself to some degree. And so, yeah, and once you're in that state, and this is another cool thing about hypnosis, it's like you're lowering your brainwave frequencies. As you know, we're talking right now, we're in the beta brainwave state because we're fully alert and present. The second, you know, we close our eyes, we take a deep breath, we tap into the alpha brainwave state, and sometimes we can go all the way now to a theta or delta brainwave state. But it's also in that realm that spirit is able to communicate with us. When we raise our vibration, we lower our brainwave frequencies, but we're raising our soul vibration. That's when spirit has an easier entry point into our own mind. And so, yeah, I'm definitely influenced by spirit, and to some degree when I do hypnosis with my clients, and the client themselves also, you know. So yeah, it's very awesome and powerful that way.
Do you advertise that, like, in any way? Are certain
No,
people more drawn to you, or do you try to keep it separate?
I'm very open about what I do, and if the client wants to know about it, for sure. You know, in some ways, you know, I explain that I'm very intuitive when I work with my clients. But then there are other clients who are just like a matter of fact, and I'm like, okay, let's just keep it a matter of fact. And I don't always have to like go that deep with them, you know.
How would you define mediumship to like a beginner?
Ah, that's a good question. How would I define mediumship? You know, my understanding of what mediumship is today, and it'll probably change, you know, tomorrow, as it has since the beginning. Since the beginning when I started doing it. Essentially, it's mind-to-mind communication, soul-to-soul communication. The only difference is that my soul is in my physical body, and spirit's soul is outside of their body. You know, the body has had a physical death, but the soul is still there. And that's the other cool thing, is like we're just vibration meeting another vibration, and ultimately we're all connected through the same vibration, right? But through adjusting my focus and awareness by tuning inward, it's like this portal entry or frequency or radio thing that I can access different energies and different frequencies. Or more, maybe it's the other way around, like where they're actually coming through to me, because I don't usually like send out my energy to meet them. It's usually the other way around, where they're seeking to come through me, if that makes sense. Obviously, it's a, you know, partnership, and I guess it's also okay to talk about, you know, how some people are fearful of negative spirits and bad spirits, and that's never been my case. I've never encountered a unpleasant mediumship reading by any sorts. I would also like to think that, you know, fear is a very human emotion that's created in the human mind, and when the physical body dies, I don't think that we bring fear with us to the other side. And I think there are different levels of awareness and consciousness on the other side, but I don't ever fear it. And I think a lot of people have fear around mediumship also. But I just like to think of it as like as a family reunion. You know, you're meeting your past loved ones who's on the other side hanging out. And ultimately, where are we going to go when our bodies die?
Well, it's like you were saying earlier. I mean, I'm much older than you, but I feel like as I'm getting older and closer to the end, I take comfort in knowing that this isn't it. There's,
Right.
it's a beautiful, it brings comfort in a weird way.
It really does. And there's nothing to fear. I really don't fear it. Honestly, I'm kind of excited about the day when it's my turn. I'm in no hurry to go, but because like, yeah, the soul, I mean, my human body is not, it's not me, it's not my soul, it's just a role that my soul has taken on in this lifetime. And I think we've had many lifetimes, as I'm sure you probably believe also, where, you know, we take on different lessons and things we have to learn. And yeah, I agree that I don't fear it at all.
I'm already making a list for things to do in my next lifetime that I know I'm not going to get to this time around. I'm like, I'll check that off next lifetime. I don't have time for it now. I'll do it
I
next time.
love that. I love that. And how did you two connect? Because you're in different parts of the world.
Yeah, so I'm in Chicago. Stina's in Norway. And we actually connected through classes, like clairvoyance classes.
Okay.
They're
Like
advertised
online
as
classes?
meditation classes.
Nice.
But really it was fine-tuning our abilities and tapping into mainly it was clairvoyance. But when you start to develop one, the other ones kind of kick in naturally also. So the
Right.
clairsentience and all those other ones, which are fun. And yeah, we actually have we started a school. It's called Vision of Profound Healing.
Okay.
And through that, we're starting, we're doing this, not starting, this is our second season of Vision Chat and just interviewing different people from different backgrounds and wanting to put it out there for people that are interested in, their own spiritual journeys and just kind of providing information and resources to people.
I love that. And do you find that people are receptive to it and open to it?
Well, it's like you said, right? You find your people.
Yeah.
And you find your communities. And I think more people are interested in it now than in the past. So I don't know. What do you think, Stina?
Yeah, I think so too. And I think it's more people that are listening to it than I would ever think of when we started and stuff like that.
How do you
But
feel like people are receptive to it in Norway, like in 2024?
well, to be honest, I'm not really going around and be like, hey, I have this website and I'm teaching people to open up. I'm more like, oh, I meditate. Yeah, and I'm spiritual and
Yeah.
I leave it at that kind of. But I think I'm growing into being more proud and being more open to be like, yeah, I'm actually doing this and we want to learn or like show people that they can learn to open up to and to trust themselves and to get across the fact that you have your own answers and you are kind of sitting like with everything. You just need maybe some guidance or to take away the fear, because I feel like there's a lot of fear and maybe a lot of knowledge that is not in our culture about it. And that's why they're like judging it or fearing it.
Yeah.
Because we only see it on like TV shows or like horror movies and stuff like that.
Yeah, no, it's true. And but I think it's awesome what you two are doing and just, letting people know about what's out there and what's actually possible for themselves too. And that's what I love about the work that I do. It's just you're opening people's minds to realize, hey, there is a lot more between, the ground and the sky, and everything in between, which is awesome.
Is there any advice you will give to somebody that is interested in exploring or just like is a beginner?
I think one of my biggest gifts in life has just been my curiosity of things. And I think if anyone is just slightly curious about meditation, life after death, hypnosis, the human mind, just seek out the information, you know, talk to like-minded people, ask questions. I ask a lot of questions, and it's gotten me to where I am today because I'm naturally curious and I'm not afraid to follow my curiosity. So that, I think that would be my advice for people. Just do the workshops, you know, read the books. YouTube is amazing. There's so many resources this day and age. You know, it's very different when I was 18. I don't think we had YouTube even back then. I sound really old when I say it like that. I don't feel old. Yeah, just like get information and don't be. I think a lot of people are really fearful of like exploring their own curiosity because they listen to society and the norms, and that, you know, they have some shame around having a desire or curiosity about, you know, not just spirituality, but it could be a lot of different things in life. But I think we're naturally curious because our soul wants to guide us to that place of learning more and understanding more the reasons behind our curiosity. So yeah, just trusting people and trust themselves.
Do you have any favorite books that maybe changed your life or that you really like or that you recommend?
Yeah, I'm not a big book reader, but there's definitely been some staple books throughout my life. Right now, I'm reading a one by Marianne Williamson called A Return to Love, where she talks about the principles from the Course in Miracles. I'm very curious about love and dating and relationships and dynamics between people and souls. And what's coming out for me from that book, it's, you know, how you meet someone you really like, and then all your insecurities are being triggered. Maybe your abandonment wounds are triggered, or your anxiousness or clinginess, and like it shows up in our behavior. And I'm like, why is it like that? And why is this love power so strong and so forceful? And so it's just really been helpful to me to understand that, you know, these things are coming up in love connections because we now have an opportunity to heal those aspects of our own mind and soul. So that is a book that I recommend to everyone I talk to, A Return to Love by Marianne Williamson. And then another book is The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer, which is a very cool book. Also, I think all these things are just talking about non-attachment to who we are, and that we're not our thoughts, we're not our mind per se. It's just a part of who we are. And so it's been interesting to just learn to observe myself from a different perspective. And it's given me some comfort and relief that, oh, thank God I'm not my thoughts, because my thoughts are pretty weird sometimes, as I'm sure any human can relate to.
Yeah, you're not alone with.
Right.
Want to tell us a little bit about where people can find you and what you're offering?
Yeah, sure. So I'm on Facebook, Jonny Torgersen. I'm on Instagram, Hypnosis with Jonny. My website, jonnytorgersen.com, or you can just type in hypnosiswithjonny.com. No H in Jonny. And yeah, I offer classes on and workshops on hypnosis. I do like intro events for hypnosis for people who just want to like check it out and see what it feels like, if it's something that would, you know, resonate with them. I'm gonna also later in this year do the same for mediumship and host some circles, which I used to do in the past. It's been a couple of years since I've done that. So I'm excited to get back into that. And yeah, I have a feeling I'll be doing some more events, some mediumship demonstrations also. So yeah, just follow me on my website and my social medias.
Yeah, that's nice. Do you want to talk a little bit more about the circles that you have, or for people that doesn't really know what a circle is?
Yeah, sure. That's a great question. A circle sounds kind of random. I agree. So a circle, like the whole intent of a circle, and that's how I started my development as a medium, is to back then, you know, we'd never did things online. We would all just do it in a physical space, and I do both now. But the idea is that you physically sit in a circle in the same room, in the same space, and you all meditate together. You fine tune your own soul energy to that of to align with spirit's energy, and so you have this blending going on in the development circle. And there are many different purposes of the circle. Can be different focuses and intentions. Sometimes you want to practice just being a psychic, which is great. Sometimes you want to blend with spirit and bring through messages. Sometimes you just want to let spirit work on your own energy and fine tune you as a medium or an instrument, which is another really powerful circle. So it's all just love. There's nothing dangerous going on there, and there's no like worship of the devil or anything like that. It's just a very loving, profound experience. And every time I've hosted a circles or I've been in a circle, I've always, every single time, left feeling like I'm on cloud nine, because it's just such a lovely feeling, honestly. So yeah, in a nutshell, that's what a circle is. And I guess a byproduct of that is that you connect with your own soul, you connect with your own self, and you get to know yourself in a way that, you know, maybe you haven't before. So yeah, it's quite beautiful.
It sounds very healing.
Yeah, I'm sure you've had the same experience too, being in circles or just, you know, doing this kind of work. It is very healing.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to Vision Chat. You can find more about us at visionofprofoundhealing.com, where we offer readings, courses, and classes.